Thanks for coming on by. Thanks everybody for being able to talk with me for just a few minutes here. I just want to take a couple of minutes of your time. I'm not going to take too much of your time today, but I want to tell you something that you will not learn anyplace else in this park. You won't, if you go to our nature center, and I hope you do go to the nature center later on, it's fantastic, but we don't have any displays about this nugget of information, so to speak, in the nature center. So if you'll give me just a few minutes of your time. My name is Rolf. I'm a volunteer for South Platte Park, and I'd love to just talk with you about this subject. I want to talk with you about how forgotten prospectors, people we don't know about anymore, how they battled hardships and adversity to transform our country, right here on the South Platte River. So the first thing I'd like you to do is, remember we were looking out at the river. Why don't you take a quick look out at the river again so you can get that in your mind's eye. Do you see that? See the river, the trees, the mountains? You don't see any kind of things that are man-made out there, do you? And if you do, forget about that for the moment. Pretend that you're back 150 years ago, and that's what you saw. Now, I want you to shut your eyes for a second. Look to your left. Same vision. There's no walls to your left. There's no buildings, there's no roads, there's nothing. Look to your right. Same thing. There's nothing. No walls, no buildings, no roads, no cars, no people. Silence. And then look straight ahead, and you can open up your eyes and look at me now. Same thing here. There's nothing out here. This part of Colorado 150 years ago had no buildings, virtually no buildings. Maybe a log cabin or two, some TVs. Very few people. And in that setting 150 years ago, some people came out because they heard some rumors that there might be gold out here. So a few people came out from the east. Now they didn't come into an empty land. There were people living out here, many people, Native Americans. And I can tell you a whole other story sometime about what happened in years to come with Native Americans. Sometimes some difficult things. But they came out and were looking for gold. And it wasn't an easy journey back then. How many of you drove out here today? All of you? Anna, how far did you drive today to get here?
25 minutes.
25 minutes. Not how many miles would that be? Maybe, 15 miles, 16 miles, something like that?
I think it's 16 miles from my house, and that's half an hour. So there you go.
Okay, about half an hour, 16 miles. Back then, they were using ox carts, and they were pulling rickety old wagons, and they had just some canvas on top of these wagons, covered wagons. You know how fast oxen were going back then? Any idea how fast, how many miles an ox could go in a day? Anyone? 10 miles? Close. 8 miles a day. It would take 2 days to travel from here, more than 2 days, to travel from here to Boulder, for example. It would take probably 3 or 4 days to travel to Colorado Springs. Days. And they weren't traveling through any places where there were like 7-Elevens or King Supers or things like that. They had to travel along places where there might be water, maybe. There's not always water out here in Colorado. They had to carry food with them unless they could find some food to hunt. They had to carry their guns and their ammunition and everything if they wanted to go hunting. And they had to carry everything with them to pan for gold. It was a hard journey. It was an arduous journey. But they came here because they had hopes that they might find some riches. Now, panning for gold was incredibly hard work. I want to give you each a gold pan. And let me just pass these out to you. 2 of you get to be lucky. You get to actually have metal pans because, of course, they didn't use plastic pans back then. And one of you is going to be real lucky, and I'm putting a little rock in this to kind of signify what was in the pan. Because what they were doing with these pans was they were taking them in that river behind you. They would dump them into the river, scoop up soil, scoop up rocks, scoop up water, and then they would stand, actually they'd probably be hunched down, and they'd be shaking this around because gold weighs less gold weighs more, excuse me, than sand does. So the idea is that over time with the sand, little nuggets of gold might filter down to the bottom, and then they would pour out the water and kind of, get out the excess sand, and then they'd sift through and see if they could find some gold nuggets. So what they really were holding had rocks and soil and water. So I've got a little piece of rock here to signify what this looks like. And Brianna, maybe actually, because of your arm, I'm gonna switch around here. Haley, are you okay taking that?
Yep.
Great. Now the next thing I want you to do, because they were just sitting here in chairs, if you're comfortable with it, I'd like you to do what I'm going to do, because they would get down into the water. Oh, and by the way, they didn't have flip-flops and stuff like that. They were in water 12 months maybe out of the year trying to pan for gold with whatever they had on their feet. They were in the water, freezing sometimes. So let's pretend we're in the water. You got to hunch down. Why don't we crouch down a little bit? Okay? And now take that pan in front of you. How does that feel? Kind of interesting to do that? Let's do this for 15 seconds. I was tempted to say let's do this for 8 to 12 minutes, but so now, okay, I'm gonna slowly get up here. Okay, let's get up. We were doing this for about 15 seconds. Imagine doing that for, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, maybe year round, when you're not out hunting trying to get enough food to survive. Panning for gold was incredibly hard, arduous work. Now, almost all the miners back then, and here, by the way, is a picture of what a gold panner looked like there back then. And this is pretty accurate. I've seen some other images as well that were drawn at the time that showed gold panners. I just really like this picture because it's nice. Can anyone notice anything about the pan that this gentleman is holding? It's huge, isn't it? It probably is as heavy as, probably the heaviest cast iron pot that you would have at home. Oh, and what else is he holding? Can you tell me?
A pickaxe.
A pickaxe. Does it look pretty lightweight? Pretty heavy. He had to use the pickaxe to try to break the soil to try to get the gold out of the soil. Now, big nuggets of gold, right? Back then, what they were looking for day after day were little teeny tiny flecks of gold. Let me give this to you, and if you could pass this around to you. And kind of shake that around. It's like sand, and you might, if you're lucky, see a few tiny flecks of gold in there. That really kind of represents a good day, a really good day for these prospectors back then. Panning for gold was hard. It wasn't an easy way to get rich. It wasn't an easy way to get famous. In fact, almost all of the miners who came out here at that time are forgotten. We have no idea who they are. They're lost to history. My wife's family came out here in 1859. This is what we're talking about 150 years ago. In 1858, there was one gentleman who we actually have a picture of. His name was William Greenberry Russell. He was from Georgia. He was a miner in Georgia, but the gold mines in Georgia were getting played out. And he thought, he'd heard that maybe there were some mines out here or some gold prospects that he could start a mine out here and maybe find some gold either in the water or out in the hills, because the gold that's in these rivers is stuff that is being washed down from the gold deposits that are up in the mountains. So he thought, maybe I could find something. So he got some of his friends together from Georgia. There were some whites from Georgia, and there were Cherokees from Georgia. How many of you knew that there were Cherokee Indians that used to be in Georgia? That's right. As a matter of fact, that was the native homeland for the Cherokee until they were driven out by whites in the 1830s, and they were sent to Oklahoma. So William Greenberry Russell went from Georgia, he went to Oklahoma, and he knew some Cherokees because he actually married a Cherokee woman. And he went with friends and family, and he gathered together all in all about 100 people, and they came out here and they decided, they heard that somebody had found a little bit of gold along the Platte River. It was just a rumor. Nobody had really seen much of anything, but they decided to start looking. So they did. And lo and behold, very close by here, only a few miles from here, they found some gold. They found some gold, probably less than about 5 miles north of us. And from that find, they told everybody back home, guess what? We found a little gold. We found $200 worth of gold. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that little bit of information, that nugget of information, if you will, was enough to start the Colorado Gold Rush in 1859. And in the space of 1 year, from this silent place that we were seeing in 1858, thousands of people came out to Colorado, tens of thousands of people. And that is how our state started, and that is how the gold rush in Colorado started. Now, this is just a quick taste of this fascinating history we've got here about how Colorado really got started as a state by what happened right out here on this Platte River. I'll be available if you have more questions now, but what I'd like each of you to do is please go to, when we're done with this, take a map here from South Platte Park, and if you have time today or some other day, walk or bicycle up through our park and go all the way up to where you'll see a plaque a couple of miles north of here where they show where the first big find of gold was along the Platte River. Also, we actually have a gold panning class. If you've got some kids who are between 6 and 10 years old, they can come and pan for gold, and we'll show them how, and it's a lot of fun, even if you don't find a whole lot. I hope you'll think about the hope and the hardships and the heroic efforts that forgotten miners made to start our state, how important the South Platte River was for them, and how important it is for